أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين محمد سيد الكونين والثقلين والفريقين من عرب ومن عجم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم هو الحبيب الذي ترجى شفاعته هو الحبيب الذي ترجى شفاعته لكل هول من الأهوال مقتحم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم يا ربي بالمصطفى بلغ مقاصدنا يا ربي بالمصطفى بلغ مقاصدنا واغفر لنا ما مضى يا واسع الكرم مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم صلوا على الحبيب اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وبارك وسلم. Now I would like to invite our brother Imam from Rafiq Sahib. Inshallah, he will deliver a beautiful speech. And this today, beautiful Naseeha night. Narai Takbir, Narai Risalat, Narai Hadri, Narai Ghawsiya, Ulama Ahl Sunnah.
الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. قال النبي صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم نعمتان مغبون فيهما كثير من الناس الصحة والفراغ أو كما قال رسول الله صلى الله تعالى عليه وسلم صدق الله العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين والشاكرين والحمد لله رب العالمين. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد وبارك وسلم وصل عليه. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا سيدي يا حبيب الله. الصلاة والسلام عليك يا سيدي يا شفيع المذنبين وعلى آلك وأصحابك يا سيدي يا رحمة للعالمين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. After praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending salutations upon Rasulullah sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam, my dear brother as well as the Imam and Khatib of this beautiful masjid, Hazrat Allama Hafiz Bilal Raza Tari Sahib, my elders, my brothers and if there are mothers and sisters listening, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He has given us the tawfiq and opportunity to come together this evening in His house in order to pray Salatul Isha together in congregation. And now He has given us the tawfiq, the ability to sit for a few moments in His remembrance, to reflect upon the teachings of our deen and the teachings of our beloved and Allah's beloved Habib, Sayyiduna Rasul, Sayyiduna Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows us to benefit in complete from this session, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive any shortcomings during this, and may Allah ta'ala make it a means of our forgiveness on Yawm al-Qiyamah. I'm grateful to Qibla Lama Sahab and all of the team and the management for allowing me this opportunity to be part of this gathering, this weekly session that you have been having, the Naseeha nights. And Alhamdulillah, it's good to see that we have these type of sessions taking place for our community, especially our young people. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow this to continue and make it a means of positivity and benefit for our community and our young people. May Allah ta'ala reward all of those who are involved in this. May Allah ta'ala reward the masjid management, the Aimma, and as well as the brothers who are taking the lead in order to make this possible. Inshallah ta'ala, as mentioned, the topic of tonight's session evolves around two blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which are often neglected and people do not pay attention to them. And when we say attention, pay attention to them, there is attention being paid to them, but it's not for the right reason. And this is why the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, the hadith which I recited before you from Sahih al-Bukhari, in which the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam mentioned in regards to these two blessings, which is good health, as-siha, and wal-faragha, which is free time. Siha and free time, good health and free time, leisure time. And these two blessings, the Prophet ﷺ said, نِعْمَتَانِ مَغْبُونٌ فِيهِمَا كَثِيرٌ مِنَ النَّاسِ. In these two blessings, or with these two blessings, people are maghboon. Okay, and now this word maghboon, which is an ismul maf'ul, from the word ghaban or ghabana or ghabina, with its different formations, it gives different meanings. But the meaning of this word maghboon, that these two blessings, most people, that's what the Prophet ﷺ said, kathirun minan nas, mostly people in these two blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are maghboon. What does that mean? One of the meaning of a ghaban is to incur a loss. And this word is also used especially when people go to trade and in bay and shira, in transactions and in trade dealings. When someone goes to sell something, buy something, and they incur a loss, although their intention is to make a profit. Their intention is to make a profit, but at the end of it they incur a loss. And sometimes they are deceived in that transaction, because either they don't pay attention, full attention towards what was taking place in that transaction or in that deal, and there's a hidden deception behind it, and that person, rather than profiting and benefiting from that trade, the person incurs a loss. and that person now has become maghboon in his trade. And this is in the context that it's normally used, this word. Another meaning of this word is, as I said, lost. Another meaning of it is to be unmindful, to be inattentive, to be neglectful. Now, when we say people being neglectful of these two blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what we mean is they don't pay attention to their good health and they don't pay attention to their free time. And the attention that people do give, so for example, if someone says that there are people who pay attention to their health, they go to the gym, for example, they take up exercise. We find many people buying, especially our sisters, health and beauty products, right? Or some people who have free time, they sometimes say, to kill some time, I have gone to spend it with my friends. Or to kill this time, to get over the free time that I have, I engage myself in a certain activity. So a person may think, how can one be unmindful of this or inattentive to this when people are paying some sort of attention to their health and to the time that they have? Or they're working, they're earning a living. But the reality is, you may be paying attention to it, but the actual benefit for a person in their good health and in their time is what benefit is for them in the akhirah. The attention may be for this dunya, but if you've only paid attention to those things for this dunya, then you have only benefited in this world. And for a believer, for a Muslim, the actual benefit is of the akhirah. Maybe you benefit something from the dunya because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, He put us into this world. With it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made many asbab and means for us to survive upon this world. Now there is no harm if someone engages their time in earning a livelihood, earning for the children, having a job. There's no harm in this, and rather it's encouraged. As the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the one who strives in order to earn provisions for their young ones, he is in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. तो जो अपने माश के लिए सही करता है, कोशिश करता है, या जो अपने बच्चों के लिए कोशिश करता है, तो हुजूर ने फरमाया कि वो अल्लाह की राह में है. Someone came to the Prophet ﷺ, a person, and the Sahaba saw him, ridwanullahi ajma'in, and they said, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he looks like a strong person. He looks like a very active and well-built person. If only he was in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If only he spent his strength, his agility, his energy, if only he spent that in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What their intention was, if only he spent it in fighting in the way of Allah, in jihad. The Prophet ﷺ replied to them. So they said, لَوْ كَانَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. If only he was in لَوْ كَانَ هَذَا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. If only he used this energy and this strength in the way of Allah, meaning in jihad. The Prophet ﷺ replied, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said to the Sahaba, إِنْ كَانَ خَرَجَ يَسْعَى عَلَى وَلَدِهِ صِغَارًا فَهُوَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. If he is striving in order to provide for his young ones, then he is in sabilillah, in the way of Allah. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, وَإِنْ كَانَ يَسْعَى عَلَىٰ أَبَوَيْنِ شَيْخَيْنِ كَبِيرَيْنِ. And if he is doing sa'i, he is making the effort in order to provide for his elderly parents, then what? فَهُوَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Then he is in the way of Allah. अगर अपने बूढ़े माँ बाप के लिए वो कोशिश करता है, तो क्या वो भी अल्लाह की राह में है. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, وَإِنْ كَانَ خَرَجَ يَسْعَى عَلَى نَفْسِهِ يُعِفُّهَا فَهُوَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. And even if he strives for himself to earn a provision for himself, and he safeguards himself in this. He protects himself in this, meaning he does tamīz between halal and haram. He saves himself from haram. He protects himself. While trying to provide for himself, then what? فَهُوَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. He is also in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, but if a person comes out and he makes the effort in order to show off, in order for other people to look at this person and say, MashaAllah, this person, he is coming out, he's making a living, he's making this, he's got this job, he's got this much money, look at his cars, look at all. If he is doing this just to impress the people, and his intention is not to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and at the same time earn halal for himself and his family, then the Prophet ﷺ said, فَهُوَ فِي سَبِيلِ الشَّيْطَانِ. That person is in the way of shaitan. That person is in the way of shaitan. So paying attention towards spending your time in providing for your young ones, or providing for those who are dependent upon you, and even for yourself, then the Prophet ﷺ said, فَهُوَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. So there is no harm in making a living, in earning a living, but it is how you do that. It is what is your intention. It's إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. So spending that time. So what I was saying is, what the Prophet ﷺ said, often mostly people are what? Maghboon. In regards, they are inattentive to this. So the example I was given is someone says, I'm spending my time making a living. There is no harm in this. But have you made earning a living your only goal of life? Is this the only goal? Is this why you are here? Is this your purpose of life? And because a person, his attention is only on providing, but his attention is not towards his creator, then maghboon, he has been deceived. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in our Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا لَا تُلْهِكُمْ أَمْوَالُكُمْ وَلَا أَوْلَادُكُمْ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. O believers, if you allow your wealth and your children to take you away from the remembrance of Allah, then what? وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْخَاسِرُونَ. Then you have incurred a great loss. तुम्हें नुकसान हो गया. If you allow your mal and your aulad to take you away from the zikr of Allah. Because what are you doing? Earning mal for who? Your dependents. But you've made that the only goal of life and only purpose. Then what? If you do this, then what will happen? You have incurred a loss. Because you have allowed it to take you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have allowed it to take away from the responsibilities in terms of huququllah that you have. Prayer, ibadah, obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The differentiation between halal and haram. All of these things are what? They are all remembrance of Allah. They are all zikr of Allah. If you cannot give any time to Allah, the Creator, then what? You've incurred a loss. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises those people. رِجَالُ لَا تُلْهِيهِمْ تِجَارَةٌ وَلَا بَيْءٌ. Those people, there are people, Allah says, that لَا تُلْهِيهِمْ تِجَارَةٌ وَلَا بَيْءٌ عَنْ ذِكْرِ اللَّهِ. They are those people who do not allow their bay, their transactions, their trade, their business. They do not allow their earning to take them away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَإِقَامِ الصَّلَاةِ وَإِيتَاءِ الزَّكَاةِ. And they establish their prayer, they give their zakat. يَخَافُونَ يَوْمًا تَتَقَلَّبُ فِيهِ الْقُلُوبُ وَالْأَبْصَارِ. And they are worried about the akhirah, that we will stand in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those people who are engaged in the dunya, who are earning a living, but it does not take them away from God. It doesn't take them away from Allah. It doesn't make them heedless and neglectful and in ghafla in terms of their duty, prayers and zakat, and also having this fear that we will be standing in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, these are the people of Allah. They are the successful ones. Ye log hain jo falah wale hain. But the ones who allow the dunya to take them away from Allah, they are the ones who are in loss. So this is in terms of time. Secondly, in terms of health, we know there are a lot of people who do pay attention to their physical health. Some people spend a lot on health and beauty products. And I was reading annually, women, they spend approximately £10 billion annually upon what? Health and beauty products. One of the highest spending is in which department? Globally is in health and beauty. So people do spend. So if someone questions, people do pay attention towards health and beauty. But the fact is, the health and beauty that they're paying attention to mostly is for appearance purposes. Is to look good. Is to show other people. Is to be on Instagram. Is to be on Snapchat. Is to have this profile. Is to have followers. Most of it is spent upon what? Appearance. In how you look. And the actual reason for good health is what? To be healthy in this dunya. To save yourself from disease. To save yourself from illness. And secondly, for a Muslim, we remain healthy in order to what? Because it's the command of Allah. The Prophet ﷺ said, your body has a right over you. So in order to pay attention to our body, our health, it's a right that it has upon us. As a Muslim, we have to fulfill this duty towards ourselves, towards our body. But the intention is very important. Also, people who go to the gym, young men who go to the gym, right? What is the main, most of the time, what is the intention behind it? It's to look good. It's to have muscles. It's to have a good physique so that other people can see your physique. And there will be very few who are going to the gym, solely just to stay healthy. Mostly is what? Appearance. Mostly is about the outward. And for a Muslim, yes, it's good. You focus on your health in order to be healthy. You have a right. And secondly, your intention should be for what? For the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And only then when you focus on your health, you will be rewarded for it. And the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi, actually the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said in terms of your outward appearance, the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam said, Allah does not look at your appearance. He does not look at your bodies. What does He look at? Your heart and your actions. He does not look at your body, your physical appearance. What does He look at? Your actions and your heart. That's what He looks at. And on the day of judgment, the Prophet ﷺ said, a person who will be well built, he will be heavy in terms of physically, he will be heavy. He will be a heavy person. And he will be placed on the mizan on the day of judgment. He will be placed on the scales of justice. He will be placed where? The scales of justice. And we all believe in the scales of justice. وَالْوَزْنُ يَوْمَئِذٍ الْحَقِّ. जो क़यामत के रोज़ जो मीज़ान लगेगा वो हक़ है. What's the purpose of this mizan? What's the purpose of the scales of justice? In order to weigh your deeds. There's ikhtilaf of the ulama, how will that happen? There's a difference of opinion, how will that happen? Upon these scales, what will be put on there? Some have said your deeds will be given a form. If they are bad deeds, they will be given an evil form. If they are good deeds, they will be given a beautiful form. And they will be placed. Your deeds will be weighed. Some have said your register, your files, that the angels on your right and left shoulder that are recording, whatever they are recording, those files will be placed on the scales. And others have said, according to this hadith, that people will be put upon the scales of justice. Logon ka wazn kiya jayega. People will be put on it. So if it's a good person who's done good deeds, a pious person, he will be heavy. And the one who was not, he will be light. So in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, a heavy person will be put upon the scales of justice, But according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will not weigh more than a wing of a mosquito. He will not weigh more than a mosquito's wing. Why? Because there's no good deeds. He fed his body, he looked after his body, he went to the gym, piled on muscle, thought he looked good, but in the akhirah he incurred a loss. Why? He's placed upon it, and he's not even worth a mosquito's wing. Not even worth a mosquito's wing. So this is why when we talk about health, yes, you need to be healthy. It's our right. It's the body's right. And this is what has been encouraged by our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Our Quran also alludes to this. كُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. Eat and drink, but do not waste. إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. Indeed, Allah does not love those that waste. Now, what is the meaning of waste? What is israf? What is israf? One israf is what كُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Eat and drink and do not waste. We understand that. Don't waste your food. And we know we waste tons of food. Tons of food. Every household wastes food. And we know that. And in our households, in the Muslim household, it mostly happens in Ramadan, unfortunately. But globally, it's not a Muslim problem. Although, unfortunately, we do as well. But it's a global phenomenon. Wastage of food and drink. But what's the other meaning? كُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Eat and drink, but do not be extravagant. Do not overeat. إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْرِفِينَ. Indeed, Allah does not love those who transgress. Because israf means to transgress limits. Eat and drink. وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. Do not waste here means do not be extravagant in your eating. That's the second meaning of it. Because israf, what does it mean? To cross the limits, to cross the boundaries. Most of the health problems are to do with what? Overeating. They are to do with what? Overeating. And that hadith which mentions about the person being weighed, there's two variations of it. In one variation of this hadith, it says that the person who will be weighed on the scales of Day of Judgment, he was someone who was given a lot to eat and drink. So he spent his entire life eating and drinking, and he loved eating and drinking. But when he will be weighed on the scales, he will not be heavier than a mosquito's wing. And one of the links of this is also to the worth of the dunya in the eyes in the sight of Allah. For example, there's a hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ said that the world, the dunya, its value in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that of a mosquito's wing. So this heavy person, a well-built person, or who spent his entire life engaged in the dunya, and his body is showing that this is what he did all his life. Living that high life, eating and drinking, that's all he spent it on. But when he's weighed, because he engaged himself so much in the dunya, just as the whole dunya in the sight of Allah is worth a mosquito's wing, this person who will be weighed will also be the weight of a mosquito's wing. To show that you've just wasted all your life. So this is where it says, نِعْمَتَانِ مَغْبُونٌ. These two blessings, often people are deceived by. Deceived by. And these two blessings, first of all, these two blessings are from amongst the great blessings of Allah. And again, there's a difference of opinion of the ulama that what is the first blessing of Allah upon the human? Is it Iman or is it life? Is it life or is it Iman? Is it health or is it faith? So there's a difference of opinion upon this. So some say no, it's Iman because this is the absolute greatest ni'mah. Thereafter is life. So life and health is one of the greatest blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we should be grateful. That's the first thing we need to do. Be grateful that Allah has given us health, He has given us life. He has given us health and He has given us free time. inshallah, I'll come to free time. What does it mean by free time? But that's the first thing we need to do. Be thankful and grateful for these two blessings. And when someone is not grateful, then maghboon, he incurs a loss. Why? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. You thank me, I shall increase you. I shall put more blessings in it. So someone who thanks Allah for his good health and thanks Allah that He's given him free time. See, we think free time is a curse. We think free time is a curse. People always want to be occupied with something. But free time isn't a curse. Free time is what? Is a blessing. You see? It only becomes a curse when you're not doing nothing. What it's trying to tell you is, if you have free time, then make use of that time. Make use of that time. So firstly, this is a blessing from Allah. We must be thankful that if Allah has given you good health and free time, if both of these things are given to a person, both of these things, then know that he's been given a lot of good from Allah. Both of these things. Because you will find some people, they may have good health, but they don't have free time. Why? Because they engaged in other things. They occupied in other things, which is not allowing them to become free for what? For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To concentrate upon their deen, to learn something about their religion, to give time to their family, to do other things. They're not getting that free time. So someone who has good health, he's not got free time. Or if someone has free time but they don't have good health, what happens? The whole concentration is upon the illness that you have. That disease that someone is in. So you have to be grateful for if you have good health and if you have free time. Both of these things you have to be grateful for. So لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If you thank Allah, He will increase you in that. He will increase you in your health. And if you be grateful to Allah for the free time that He has given you, that you're able to spend a few moments in His remembrance, you're able to spend a few moments in His house, you're able to spend a few moments with your parents, you're able to spend a few moments with your family, you're not wasting your time. And secondly, you will incur a loss if you are socializing without remembering Allah. There is no harm in socializing. There is no harm in interacting with other people. Islam doesn't stop you from that. But what it does say is this: if you meet with a group of friends and you sit and you socialize, you be with your family, if you sit in a gathering, and in that gathering, not once do you bring Allah on your tongue, not once do you bring the Prophet on your tongue, then on the day of judgment, that gathering that you sat in will be brought to you and it will be shown that you wasted your time. You had incurred that loss. Ni'matani maghboonun. And this is maghboon, this is ghabad. A person thinks, I'm utilizing my time. But because he did not even utter or bring to his tongue the name of his Lord or the name of his Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in that gathering, he had much better things to talk about, na'uzubillah. He had other things to talk about. What will happen on the day of judgment? The Prophet ﷺ said, this gathering will be a means of loss. So this gathering deceived him. So his free time that he was using, maghboon, he became deceived by it. So what's the first thing that we need to do for these two blessings? Thank Allah. And He'll increase you in this. Why do we complain today? Time is going fast. Yes, it's one of the signs of Yawm al-Qiyamah. The time will travel fast. क़यामत की एक निशानी क्या है? कि वक्त जल्दी गुजरेगा. 2022 already. And this was one of the reasons why I wanted to speak about this hadith and this topic, because one is 2022 started, and secondly, COVID, and everyone is experiencing COVID, ill health. Many people have lost their lives. May Allah Ta'ala grant them Jannatul Firdaus, and those who have been affected, may Allah give them health. May Allah Ta'ala give sabr and patience to those families affected. So we're experiencing something firsthand as a community which is to do with what? Health and time. 2022 has started already. We can still remember our yesteryears. Time is passing quickly. One of the signs of Yawm al-Qiyamah. But why is time passing quickly? Why does it feel like time is passing quickly? Time is the same. Time is the same. Allah created time. Time is the same. But what has happened? The blessings from that time is removed. And the blessing from the time is removed from those people who don't appreciate that blessing. It's for them. Those people who appreciate time, those people who spend their time wisely, for them time doesn't pass quickly. For example, many of us, we don't use our night to sleep. What do? We stay awake all night. We stay awake most of the night. Doing what? On our screens, watching something, doing something, socializing, whatever. Some people may be working. Yes? But Allah created night for what? Sleep. And He created the day for work. وَجَعَلْنَا النَّوْمَ سُبَاتًا وَجَعَلْنَا اللَّيْلَ لِبَاسًا وَجَعَلْنَا النَّهَارَ مَعَاشًا. He made the day for work. And the Prophet ﷺ said, he made a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Oh Allah, make for my ummah their mornings as a blessing. Put blessings in the morning for my ummah. So where is the blessing? It's in the morning. And there's a hadith where it is mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ said that the blessing in the rizq of a person is in the morning. Allah has put blessings in the rizq of a person when? In the morning. And there's a hadith of Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu ta'ala, Uthman bin Affan radiallahu ta'ala anhu, in which he said that the obstruction for your rizq is in which? When a person misses the morning. So Allah has put blessings in the morning. What do? We spend it in sleeping. So this is why the blessing of time is removed for that person. And you can experience it yourself. Someone who sleeps during the day, they don't utilize the night to sleep and they sleep during the day. They wake up 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. They will say to you, I don't know where the time has gone. If you wake up 1, 2 o'clock, how many hours you have left behind to do something? And time will pass very, very quickly for that person. And those people who are used to waking up early, if you go into, for example, our elders, parents, grandparents, they're used to waking up really early and going to work and not sleeping. If you go into, for example, countryside, or if you go into those parts of the world where they wake up really early morning, Fajr time, they wake up and then they begin their work, you will find that they're able to accomplish so much, and they're able to come home as well after completing that day's work and satisfied that I've completed the day's work, and they still have hours to come home and relax. They start early morning. At Asr time, they finish and they come home and relax. Sometimes you will find, in Pakistan for example, you would find that they finish by Zohar time, they come home to have their rest, their nap. They've done for the day. So the blessing is there. The time is the same. But what has happened? The person who does not utilize that time, Allah removes that blessing. And this is why we feel time goes very, very quickly. This is why we feel that. And this is what I was saying, like, in shakartum la azidannakum. You thank Allah, He will increase you in this. He will put more barakah. وَلَا إِنْ كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. And if one is ungrateful for this, then إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. Indeed, Allah's punishment is severe. What does it mean by Allah's punishment here? Is if someone doesn't appreciate that blessing, then Allah Ta'ala takes that blessing off him. Or Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala removes the blessings in that thing that He has given him. This is the punishment of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. So this is the first thing, we must be grateful. Number two, another way of being grateful is to utilize that blessing in the way that it ought to be utilized. उस नेमत का इस्तेमाल करना जैसे उसका हक है, ये भी अल्लाह का शुक्र है. This is also being appreciative of that blessing, using it in the way that it ought to, using your health in the way that it ought to, using your time in the way that it ought to. So if a person is able-bodied with good, healthy, everything, then that person has more agility, more energy in order to please their Lord, in order to do good deeds, in order to fulfill the obligations that they have, to fulfill the mu'amalat that they have, the responsibilities, the hukuk al-ibad that they have. But if that health is removed, then what happens? You're unable to do that. And this is why the Prophet ﷺ, in that famous hadith, he said, اِغْتَنِمْ خَمْسًا قَبْلَ خَمْسٍ. Take advantage of 5 things before 5. And in that famous hadith you've heard many times, the Prophet ﷺ said, take advantage of your youth before you become old. Because when you're young, you have more energy, you have more agility, you have more, you may say you have more time to do something. Why? Because you're young. Those things that will affect you when you're old, what will be in your mind? My next stage is what? The grave. But for a young person, you look at it as if your whole life's ahead of you. That gives you that encouragement. But take advantage of your youth before you become old. The Prophet ﷺ take advantage of your health before you become sick. And this is also ghaban, maghboon. Someone who's maghboon is what? When they have good health, but they do not think and ponder upon, what if I get sick? What if this health is taken away from me? Who thinks like that? When someone is healthy, people think, oh, I'm healthy, I'm alright. But they don't look at, what if this happened to me? And someone who doesn't think like that what if I become ill, then what would I do in regards to my ibadah, my worship, in regards to my deen, in regards to my, mu'amalat that I need to do? If someone thought like that, then they would be prepared for that moment. But if someone doesn't think, then what happens is when they fall sick, they become deceived, maghboon. They've incurred that loss because they weren't prepared for it. Secondly, free time. If someone doesn't think, they have free time, but they don't think, oh, I'll become busy, I'll have this responsibility on me. If someone doesn't have that vision, doesn't have that forward thinking, for a young person who may think, I'm free, but they don't have this forward thinking that I'm going to become busy, there's going to be responsibilities upon me. When it's hit by it, maghboon, he becomes maghboon. He becomes deceived by his own thinking. So this is also the meaning of maghboon. Ni'matani maghboon. Mostly people are what? They incur this loss. They are deceived by these two things. They are deceived by these two things. And the third thing that I want to mention here is in terms of time. There's a surah. Sorry, let me come back to the health part. Being healthy, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the hadith that a believer who is qawi, a strong believer, al-mu'min al-qawi, is more beloved and better in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than a weak believer. So what does that mean? Number one, in the sight of Allah, a strong believer, al-mu'min al-qawi, is more what? Better and beloved to Allah than a mu'min who is da'if, who is weak.